Hey guys, welcome to the Multiply Podcast. I am joined in our travel studio today on our national tour in 2026 in Detroit, Michigan with Greg and Anca Ursu. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's so good to see you guys both. I'm so happy to be in Detroit. I'm so happy to be able to record with you guys. So we only got connected, has it been a year? Maybe it's been a little bit less than a year.
Less than a year now, yeah.
Yeah, less than a year. That's so wild. Because I feel like we've been friends for way longer.
Forever.
You know what I mean? So it's pretty funny. We've only known each other for less than a year, but your guys' reputation precedes you in the same way that John and Georgie Ungurs does. Because Rafi's been telling me for a while, man, you have to meet Greg and Anca Ursu. And so I'm so glad to be able to connect with you guys now and even back then. So the way we got connected, right, was you guys run Camp Emanuel out here in Michigan, which we'll talk about that. And you guys had invited me as a speaker to your camp. And I was really thrilled to come. Rafi Heinbachner also told me about it as well. And then we connected over like Zoom. And then you guys had a bunch of like material and a bunch of like structure and schedule and planning and investment and work. And, you know, I thought it was really, really brilliant and had a really good time with it. And then I came out to your guys' camp and taught there during that week. Had a great time with you guys. Had a great time with the kids. We really hit it off, you and I, Greg, to the point where it was like day 2, and you were like, I didn't think I was going to be able to ask you this question because I don't think I'd get to know you well enough, but I feel like I already do. So, and you know, I was like, yeah, this is great. You know, so we had like a really good time. And yeah, then after camp, we just kept in touch ever since. And I knew when I was coming out to Detroit, I was thinking about different people that I have to interview as we were kind of setting up this national tour at the end of last year. And I thought to myself, man, I got to sit down with Greg and Anca. And there are so many people that don't know about Camp Emanuel, don't know your guys' story. And I'd love to, you know, showcase it and put it out there and encourage people. So that's actually why I asked you guys to be on the podcast today, because I just think there's a ton to talk about. And actually, we have other connections as well. She just left a couple minutes ago, but we'll talk about that as well. So anyways, really super glad to have you guys here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for having us. It's a treat.
Excited to be with you. And I was telling you as well right before this that my secret agenda is that I get to hang out with you again finally and ask you some questions on your own pod. So just...
I love it. Awesome. So for our listeners, I don't know what you're going to ask me, but I'm down. I'm down. And if it's terrible, we'll just clip it. You know,
yeah. Won't go live with that, huh?
Nah, it'll be good. But so one of the questions that I love to ask all of our guests that come on is I love to ask for people's testimony. And a major part of it, a major reason behind is because if you look in Revelation chapter 12, verse 11, right, it talks about the church in the end times and the, you know, apocalypse, revelation, right, of, you know, what's going to happen in the end and the battle that, you know, the church is going to have with the enemy, with the devil. And in chapter 12, verse 11, it says, and the church in the end times overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. And they love not their own lives even unto death. And I think a lot about the power of the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And so I'm always in pursuit of people's testimonies because I feel like, you know, all of the kids at your guys' camp or your camp kids, they might look at you guys and see you as like, you know, Saint Anca and Saint Greg. You know, they'll see you as, you know, that spiritual, you know, father and mother that you guys are, you know, to all of these young people. And often people will assume, oh, you know, like you guys were just born in the church basement and were raised in the sanctuary between the pews. But, you know, there's this disconnect between like young people and seeing people in ministry where they don't realize that you guys were just young people that grew up in a church and, you know, loved the Lord and, you know, the journey that got you from where you were to where you are now. And so I'd love to hear you guys' testimony and to just better understand, you know, were you raised in Christian homes? Were you raised in the Romanian church? Were you born in America? And then kind of what was that journey like? And was there a specific moment in your guys' journeys where you knew that you were saved? Was there like a come to Jesus moment, or was it, you know, you were just kind of raised in Christianity and so you always believed? Or kind of what does that journey look like?
And just thinking about this, I think our story is just so similar to so many of, quote, the camp kids that we serve every year because just growing up in Christian families in the same community, we have a lot of the same experiences, and we have kind of those multiple, you know, God moments where we, you know, he reveals himself to us more and more. And a lot of that has to do with just, again, especially in our upbringing, receiving his grace, finally understanding more of that gospel, knowing him. And I just think, and I was mentioning this to you before as well, why our ministry to us anyway is so important, because I feel like it's more difficult for a very religious person to truly come to faith, because their entire life has been marked by behaving or striving.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do with where my heart is personally for a lot of these campers. And just like some of them where, we'll be just, whatever, I'm sitting there, trying to struggle to explain the cross, the work of the cross, or just in one of our lessons, and, some random 9-year-old will I'll just hear, oh, I get it now. Right.
Right.
And that to me, that doesn't just, make it all worthwhile, but also, to remind me that it wasn't me, that it's the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
But
so your story mirrors a lot of these kids'
that,
stories.
Yes.
Very cool.
And then, as that time progressed, just being involved in just church ministry all the time, kind of unofficially, again, how that generally works out with, the more active people within kind of our own upbringing.
Yeah.
They don't generally have the formal titles, but they're kind of, in the trenches doing their thing.
Yeah. There's the title people, and then sometimes the workers are not the title people. Sometimes they're just,
right.
a couple of guys here and there. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So that's just been my experience.
So, and then it's just always being involved like that. But again, that's where there is that similarity, and that's where, again, just why it's so much, I think, on our hearts to just present the gospel and create an environment where we can just create an environment for encounter, where we're constantly reminding those around us of the gospel and the work of Jesus and what that truly means for us.
So the similarity, like you grew up in a Christian household.
I did.
Were you born in the States?
I was born in Canada.
Oh,
So,
that's right,
yes.
Canada.
Yes.
Canada.
One of those guys.
America's hat.
So,
Anyway,
51st state and so on and so on.
51st state, yes.
Right. So,
It's funny, dude, because we've been hanging out for, a bit of time now, and we talk all the time. I keep on forgetting that you're from Canada.
Really?
Yeah. No, like to me, no, you're one of the boys, man. You're
Really?
like, yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Like,
He doesn't have an accent.
not at all. Not at all.
makes fun of
Yeah.
once in a
I
while.
thought it was a little weird when I saw you just drinking straight maple syrup, but like, short of that, nah.
I mean, the first time, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but she asked me what the weather was like. And, I'm just near Toronto. And
Nice.
she's like, I'm like, oh, we're already next week. The igloos are coming out. I was like super, deadpan.
Yeah.
And she was, second guessing herself. But anyway.
That's all right. I was an hour outside of Sacramento, and one of my youth asked me, "What time is it there?" It's like I'm like an hour away. I'm in San Francisco, dude. Like, what are you talking about? Yes. So it happens. But so you were born in Canada, and then Christian household, right?
Christian household,
Grew up in church.
Grew up in church, very much part of the Romanian community, culture, ESL kid, even though I was born in Canada.
Nice, same.
Well, yep.
Like, minus the Canada part, but the ESL kid, yeah.
Right. And then, so just always been. And then, what was it? How many years were we married when we started attending Canadian church?
So we had our second daughter already.
Okay. Yep. So, yeah.
So a few years into the marriage, and then you guys started attending
a Canadian church.
Okay. Where did you two meet? At your church, or?
No. So I had been abroad for a number of years, just working.
Work, business, yeah.
And just with a number of startups and whatnot. And I was actually, I always made fun of the dudes that came to church functions to, get connected and so on and so forth.
Awesome.
Always. And
awesome.
so because of that, I was talking to a friend of ours, and she was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Or, and I was like, "Oh, I've been traveling abroad. I'm moving back now, and I'm becoming, just a good boy now. I gotta, find a wife. That's why I'm here, like everyone else. And she's like, oh, then you got to meet someone I know. I'm like, did you not get any of the, sarcasm?
Yeah.
And so it was funny because at the same time, I was talking to
Lemmy?
her cousin Lemmy, and he's like, oh, you got to meet my cousin. I'm like, whatever. And then at the same time, I guess they were talking to you about me. And then,
Well, yes, our mutual friend,
Right.
which we did not know was our mutual friend at the time,
Yes.
said there's this guy. She was great list going on for him. And I
Which
was
is
like,
weird
well,
because,
why
like,
aren't you going
we
for
weren't that
him
close,
since
so.
he's so incredible? And she's like, he's too short for me. And, he's
Greg's not short
6'2",
at all.
yeah.
Yeah, you're 6'2".
Exactly.
So-
Which was hilarious. Yeah, but she just thought that we matched very well. And
Is your cousin like 6'7" or what? I don't know.
I don't know.
and then,
like,
and then she was talking to her other cousin. In the meantime,
Unrealistic beauty standards on us men that nobody talks
Yes.
about. Let me just say.
so she was talking to her cousin, and she's like, oh, all Canadians are jerks, but except unless it's Greg, which was like, and I hadn't hung out with him since we were probably like 12.
Are you serious?
Yes.
And I'm like,
So it was completely out of nowhere.
Wingman, dude, through and through. What
absolutely,
a homie.
yes. And then the weirder part was that because I had been kind of so involved with youth and had traveled so much, it always hit me how much, like, let's just call it family difficulty.
Yeah.
How much pain and how many broken people end up because of their family and
Yeah.
kind of how they were brought up and everything.
Home situations. All sorts.
And just always kind of, having conversations, dealing with that, seeing that. I just always had this like almost unhealthy fear of like, man, if I don't find the right person. So that was the first time, like that was the first weekend, I think in my entire life where I knew that not only was that the person, which is really weird to say, but also that I was at peace. I wasn't stressed about it at all. So that was another Holy Spirit thing.
And then you guys met and you were like, I'm going to need to lock this down. And
I made her cry because I was too serious. My first conversation. It's like, look, I don't do, like, look, I don't want to waste your time.
This is
and I want to get to know you.
He took me to meet his parents the first time.
Are you
I went up
serious?
to Canada.
How did you hang in there, Anca?
I just want to see how she'd react, whatever.
I was like, no, like I just have one rule. I just don't want to meet your parents. It's like my first time meeting you outside of, when we first met. And there we are at his house and with his whole family just staring,
That's so funny.
And
But
my
his grandma loved me.
right,
awesome.
except so my grandma's the most unfiltered person ever. When you get to that age, can't wait. When you can say whatever.
Is your grandma still around?
No, she's not.
Oh.
But yeah.
I like unfiltered people. Like I immediately thought to myself, I need to meet your grandma, but nah, such is life.
And really wicked sense of humor, like the kind that whenever my grandpa would be worried again, ill, and that he was gonna pass soon, she'd like joke by asking me what song I'm gonna sing at her funeral, and like
Look, you got to understand. I tend to have more of a dark sense of humor, especially for a minister.
she did too.
And people think I get it from my dad. I don't. I get it from my mom.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah. My mom had spent a number of years, being raised in an orphanage, and so she's, she's had her own unique experiences in childhood, but she's got a hilarious sense of humor, but it's dark. Yeah. I mean, like, I'll give you an example, okay? Because the people listening online might be like, "Whoa, what do you know?" I'll give you an example, like Thanksgiving, my mom's taking a photo of all of us, and I was like, "What are you doing, Mom?" And she's like, my sister already had her Thanksgiving dinner, and right now she's by herself. So I want to send her a photo so she can see that all my family is with me.
They love me.
They love rubbing it in, to each other, and I just find it hilarious. But yeah, no, that's my mom.
Yeah, I think
So I understand. Like as Romanians, we have a bit of like a dry kind of dark sense of humor,
Right.
but it's also hilarious. Like what I mean is, like, if you've ever sat around with your American friends and like laughed about your childhood, they look at you like, "How are you not traumatized?"
Right.
That's what I mean.
yes, yeah.
Eastern European, yeah.
Some of us inherited a little bit too much of that, but yeah. But her first thing was after she left was, "Oh, she's a really pretty girl. I don't think this is going to work out for you."
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Like that,
And then the
that
second
kind of
thing-
dark sense of humor.
And then the second thing was, "Ikaw mi kanu'y muna de sapa."
So in English translated, that would be, She's got a small frame, so she wouldn't be good to
farm work.
farm work.
Right. Yeah, too petite for farm work. So, right.
Sorry, Anca, you're not good for
Right.
farm work.
Right. So, yeah.
Your grandma sounds awesome,
So
dude.
she was. Yeah, I miss my grandma. But yeah.
Oh, it's too funny.
And then,
So she
yeah,
came over, met the family.
Right. So, and we had I'm like, wow, I really like this person. And, and I mean, there's other things that happened. Like, I didn't have social media, and I, created a Facebook page just so I could connect with her because she,
I'm still his only friend on social media. on
Are you
Facebook.
serious?
Yes.
cute.
How many years has it been?
17 this year.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then,
Nice.
yeah.
That's
and then
pretty awesome.
So after that conversation, what else got me interested was, she didn't want to share her number. And I was like, okay, this is a, serious, decent human being. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to date my phone and just be
That-
glued to
yes.
a device. I was like, and you could be whoever you want over a screen, right? So
True.
I was like, I'm too old for this. He's going to have to come over and get to know me if he wants to.
Awesome.
So that really impressed me as well. So that's why and then that was kind of part of the conversation because I was saying, look, I don't want to waste your time. Just want to get to know you. No pressure.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a reason why we're chit chatting. I'll come see you whenever. It was the recession, so Anca had more time, so she was able to come down as well, and
It was like
we can hang out.
08?
08, yeah,
Yeah,
09, 08, and so I guess that was a lot of pressure because I just told her to let me know if I should come down and keep hanging out.
Nice.
So
Nice.
And then you visited every other week, then every week, then twice a week. So he was very committed after that. Things
There was
moved
an
very
interest.
quickly. Yes.
No, that's great. It's funny because guys today are so different. You know what I mean? Than like the way that you and I were when we were growing up. Where like I know a young lady and she was like, yeah, this guy is like a few hours away. He was like an hour and a half away, whatever, and wants to take me out on a date. And I was like, okay, so he's gonna drive to your city.
Pick you up.
Yeah, and she's like, no, he asked to meet halfway, and I was like, oh, no, just
Red flag.
just walk away. Meet.
I would have said
He
the
wants you to get in a car and drive 45 minutes to go to a cat. Get out of here, dude. You know what I mean? Like I used to know guys that like, one guy I knew, he had a girlfriend in Los Angeles, and he'd be there like every 3 days. They're like, yeah, it's a 6.5 hour drive, whatever. I'll drive 6.5 hours, go see her for 2 hours, take her on a date, and drive 6.5 back. And everybody else was like, yeah, of
course.
of course you would. I mean, right? Are you interested or not?
Right.
So yeah, no, it's a little bit different. But let me ask you this, Greg. So did you have a moment where like you came to Jesus, or was it just like you grew up in the church and you knew you were saved, or was there, or let me ask you this. Like I was having a conversation with Rafi, and I've had this conversation with many people, where it was like in her journey, she had grown up in Christianity, but there was a real breakthrough, like when she was in college, where she understood grace, like for the first time. Because a lot of times, and not necessarily because the church teaches it or whatever, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying a lot of times, like maybe culturally, we'll bleed into this kind of works-based salvation, or this a culture-based salvation, or whatever terminology we want to use. But was there like a moment where you had like breakthrough, where you were like, man, this is mine now?
There were several, but the one thing I'd like to, I guess, like maybe push back a little bit on what
please.
you said, that I do think that our view of God and who He is really driven by how we're taught.
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
And I do feel that a lot, or the vast majority of how I was taught, was essentially, reading a passage and then moralizing it. It was never, this is what Jesus did here.
Explain that. Reading a passage and moralizing it. Unpack that a little bit.
Essentially, apply like this. So what can we apply from here, rather than what did Jesus do here? So rather than reading the Bible as an arc of, how do we see Jesus here? How do we see whatever? Being in Sunday school, we're like David, right? We got to be like David.
Right,
It's like,
right.
no, you're not like David. You're the Israelites shaking in their booties. Jesus is the true and greater David, and understanding the gospel through the entire Word of God and understanding how everything is, a redemption story, and understanding how everything is redeemed, and understanding how it's His work. And the Bible isn't about us; it's about Jesus
Right.
and what Jesus did.
Right.
And I think just everything that we're taught, and that's again a difficulty I see just in my own life with my own kids. It's I'm always laying down the law, and I'm not. How am I teaching grace? How am I teaching the gospel? What does that look like? And especially as a dad, that's a different conversation altogether. But
It's shaking in their boots. That's a Canadian hiccup you did right there.
Oh, shaking in their booties?
yeah,
Is booties Canadian for boots?
I guess.
I understand.
Or when I say that you button line,
Yes, that's another Canadian thing. Don't butt, but it's American. It's don't cut in line.
Cut in line?
They say
Yes.
don't butt in line.
These little things like this I haven't picked up on. I wouldn't have known.
So I think a lot of that is because of how we're taught, and it's very. I mean, I just wish it was, like Paul says, all I care is that's all I want to hear amongst you, right? Just Christ and Him crucified,
Right.
And it's not. It's always the focus is always what we need to do. The focus is always, whatever it is. Rather than understanding that the focus is what Christ did, and understanding the gospel, understanding just again, I know it's the basics, but just the fact that we're so over the basics, the fact that we're not just excited about the gospel, just as we always were,
Yeah.
and have to preach it to ourselves constantly and have to discuss it constantly just because we want to. And we're just always, and potentially it could be because of our denomination. We're always just kind of, whatever it is, chasing the next experience, all
Right.
kinds of cool.
And that does happen.
Sensationalist, things that are, but, and that to me is just more proof that, do we really know Christ if we're not really excited about Him and His work and so on. So I think for me, those moments were like, again, it's harder. I feel like for someone that's religious, it's harder for them to convert to truly rest in Christ and His work than it is for, the prodigal or someone that is, saved from a dire situation of sorts, because it's more obvious.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us that grew up, I think that, well, obviously, being saved is whether you're the prodigal or regardless of what your situation is.
Right.
We're still a wretch.
Yeah. And whether you're religious or worldly, if you're lost, you're still a prodigal.
Exactly. So I think that's where, there were a number of situations like that. Part of it some of those were in my travels, just having more experiences where, there was no one there for me to, whatever, set me straight and whatnot, and just being able to, and then just coming to the end of myself, multiple times where, you're let down by either, your effort, and then, when you're, or me in my situation, in my, late teens, where it's like, okay, no matter how hard I try, I'm still struggling with X, Y, Z.
Right.
And just, and those are always, again, conversations that we have in the ministry that we're involved. So, I come back to, that's probably why we're so invested, and it just means so much to us, because it's like there's more destruction when we're in a church or a ministry where we are just, faking it till we make it. We're kind of pushing sin. I feel like there's more sin, and we live with more sin where we pretend to be, holy, and we have all these standards that we, hold on to, and we hold on to our secondary kind of whatever it is, and we identify with those things. And that, just from my experience, I see how much sin and how much pain and how much brokenness those types of environments create and fester. And hide, exactly. And we see that, and it's heartbreaking, and we see that just firsthand. And there's so much pain because of this hiding. And they just, because obviously it's always about, what other people say when they see this, or so it's
very external.
It's all external.
Yeah.
And it's just to see what that does. Again, every year we basically have a questionnaire where, were you there for that one this year where we did, stand up for your brother? Yeah. So, and you saw that firsthand, right?
Yeah, super cool.
Where every, whatever it is, just a questionnaire with different things that everyone struggles with.
Let me explain what that is for our listeners. I thought it was a really cool project. So like, let's say, and I think I'm remembering this correctly, but let's say there's like 100 kids that were there. What you did is you passed out a questionnaire, and in the questionnaire it was really thorough. It had things like, do you struggle with, shielding your eyes from, what you look at, or do you struggle with thoughts of suicide, or have you struggled with all sorts of, questions that are very vulnerable questions. Nobody writes their names on anything. And then you guys would take the papers and then reshuffle them and then repass them back out. So everybody got somebody else's paper, but nobody knows whose it was. And it was a way of pulling statistics out of the congregation while also having them experience the statistics. And then, you went through the questions again, and question one, it was like, if you struggle with thoughts of suicide, please stand. And then you would see how many people would stand, and it would make such an impact into the, group of, let's say there was 100 kids there. Out of the 100 of them, maybe like 70 would stand up or something like that. And everybody else would look around and go, dude, I can't believe
Makes it very real. Yeah.
like 70%. What are you talking about? What do you mean this many? Right. And for the ones that were struggling with it, that were in that percentage, it was really empowering because they could see that, man, I'm not alone.
Yes.
This is a very, common thing, and it's terrible that it's common. And for the ones that didn't struggle with it, there was, a sense of gratefulness and a sense of realization and a sense of like, dude, I have my own struggles, but this isn't one of them. But look how many people do struggle with this.
Yes.
And so it kind of really helped bring a lot of clarity that were real statistics in an impactful way, but it was still completely anonymous. So it was a really cool project. I remember that very much.
For me, really, it really helps. I think it's one of the most effective ways I can show everyone there that regardless of, what church you're from, I bring up the stats for those that are in the world, and I'm like, look, why isn't there a difference?
Yeah.
Why statistically you guys go to whatever church it is, and I name the churches, and statistically, we're no different than the world.
Yeah.
Do we need to be saved or not?
That's great to also point out a further underlying problem, which is what you're pointing out there, right? Where you're like, look at the world stats, look at ours. Ours should be different. Christianity should produce something different. Right. Or is your Christianity genuine or inauthentic? Are you believing in a Christianity that is, your parents' salvation, your parents' faith, or do you have your own specific faith? Yeah, no, that's a great way of bringing that to the surface. I want to dive more into the camp in just a minute, but I want to hear your testimony, Anca. I want to know, how did you come to the Lord? Were you raised in a Christian household? I know that's a yes. What's that journey like?
So I was born in Romania, raised in Michigan.
Where in Romania were you born?
Bistrița.
Bistrița.
Bistrițeancă.
Okay, so I have two things to say about that. Okay. Number one, makes sense knowing you. Okay. Number two, my dad's from Bistrița. That's why it makes sense. Okay. We're very much the same in that way. I'm very much like my dad. My mom's from Oradea. My dad's from right near Bistrița. And so, that
Number
really
three,
driven.
we love bread.
What's that?
Number 3, we love bread.
Yes, I'm the same. So anyways, I had no idea. This makes sense. Yeah, there's...
What else? Just want to know what else makes her Bistrițeancă?
Well, so the love for bread, actually, is funny because I was talking to some people about this weekend, where I don't really have a sweet tooth, but I will get in a fist fight over bread. Like, I love bread. So when you said that, I was like, yes, I understand. That's so funny. Anyways, sorry. Okay, so you were born in Romania. What age did you immigrate to the States?
I was 3 years old.
I was 3. Anyway.
There you
Sorry.
That's so funny. Raised, my parents trying to find a job. My dad had 3 jobs, so we rarely see him. And it was rough. They worked really hard.
Did you guys come straight to Detroit?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Landed in New York, did the typical,
right.
And then flew to Detroit. Yes. And then, so I was raised in a Christian home, and I do believe, like, we have 4 kids, and a lot of parents ask us, like, how do you guys lay out the gospel for the kids? What parameters do you do for your own family, since you guys work with kids and so on? And in my own personal life, I saw the importance and the power of your parents speaking life into you.
Wow.
Continuously, no matter at what age. So I remember being very young and hearing all the Bible stories and not even realizing my dad's talking about the Bible at, 3, 4, or 5 years old. But these stories were just so beyond cool. And I was just all eyes and ears, like listening to these bedtime stories. And then I'd be like, well, what's going on next? And he's like, you're going to have to turn to Genesis and find out. And I'm like, oh, that's the Bible he's talking about. So just having those moments, the family altar was really predominant in our family. And
What does that mean for people that don't?
we would literally sing and worship at home with the family. I would learn all the Romanian old school songs from the hillside. My mom would bust out her mandolina.
That's amazing. So you guys would do that just in your living room?
Yes, we did.
Your parents were extremely intentional at
Yes, they
investing
were.
in you guys.
Yes, although, like I said,
That's
they worked
amazing.
hard. We were home alone a lot, but they both worked hard and a lot, but we still made sure we had time for that. Seeing, growing up in the church, I think to add to Greg's point, for somebody that grew up in church, they might have more moments of doubt than moments of hearing God speak to them clearly, and that is okay. But that's why I think it is so important for the parents to just keep pouring in, even if they don't realize. So I got baptized at the typical age of 16 in water, and did all the good things, pleased my parents, and did all the right things, right? And then you get through a lot of moments of doubts, even if you. I've had a lot of personal experiences with the Lord where he would speak to me directly, either through, even at a young age, a vision or a verse. But like I said, growing up in the church, your boundaries are laid for you. Your parameters are set for you. This is
Right.
what we believe. And, you try your best to please your parents. So, of course, a lot of doubt is going to set in as well, and a lot of self-reliance maybe. And I went off to university. And when I had a co-op job in Ohio as well during university, and my mom would call me and we would just chat on the phone. And to this day, my mom has no idea what she would talk to me about. We're just blabbing. She was just blabbing on and on and on. And every time she was calling me on the phone, I would just, back then we didn't have speaker on our little flip phones, right? So
right.
I would go like this so I could hear her talking, but she won't hear me. And I would always be bawling my eyes out because the Lord would be speaking through her for my situation, and whether it was relationships, friends, work issue, whatever it may be, a deadline or something I was going through.
That's amazing.
Yes, and my mom
old were you at the
doesn't
time?
realize in university,
Yeah, so you were in your early 20s, late teens?
late teens,
Yeah, that's
And,
amazing.
Yeah, so my mom doesn't even realize to this day what she was saying exactly, but just always speaking life, and praying for for her children and allowing herself to be used by the Lord in that way. I think
Amazing.
Yes, I really, it helped me keep grounded. And even after I graduated university, the typical Romanian thing where we're supposed to be married at a young age and have life already planned out.
Yes.
That was not my story. So I graduated and I was not married, and I was like, Lord, now what?
Oh, this is like you were
This is
outside
all
of the
wrong.
norm.
Yes.
Yeah, no, 100%. So maybe it's different today for young people. Actually, it's a lot more different today than it was when we were in our late teens. But for our listeners, the norm was, if you're 16, you're too young. If you're 17, you're too young. If you're 18, you're too young. If you're 19, how come you're not married yet?
Yes.
Like it was, and it was like, well, when am I supposed to get to know somebody, And it was like, by the time you're 22, it's like, oh,
Yes,
it's over,
exactly.
Yeah, that's what I remember being a teenager and stuff.
Yes.
And so now you're back from university, and then you met a guy from Canada, huh?
Yes. So, I was going to add that I was listening to Tim Keller, and he was saying how I believe it's Psalm 88. I hope that's correct. It's like the darkest psalm. It's the darkest chapter in the Bible, and that's because there isn't really any other religion, no other being way that this deity would allow its followers to question who he is. And
Right.
our God allows that for
Right.
us kids that grew up in the church and still struggling in doubt. And, my parents believe this, but why am I believing this? God allows that for us. And he allowed it in the Bible for us to read that it's okay to converse with the Lord in that
Yeah.
way, and just, ask the questions, test him, put him to the test, and
to be
he will show
transparent
up.
and-
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So, My mom also helped me through that, actually. After I graduated, she was like, I don't even want to know what you did living on campus. I don't want to know what you were doing or who you were with, but let's just take some time to fast and pray together. And it kind of sounds funny now that I say it out loud, but it was actually really cool because we read the word together, we prayed together, we fasted together, and
Your mom with you.
yes, me and my mom.
That's so special because
yes,
that's unique. That's not the normal young person Romanian experience with their parents. At least not that I've heard
that's
of.
true.
Like your parents were really invested and they had a relationship with you and they would fast and pray with you. You have such special parents.
With me, amen. Yes, I do. They would do that with me, so not really like pressuring me, as more just. My mom was like, I want to be there for you, and sometimes it's hard to like kind of self-assess and try to. Okay, hold on. It's hard to like on your own to get clarity or self-assess and move forward. So she wanted to do that with me. She was like my cheerleader, basically.
That's awesome. She would help you like walk out your thoughts and,
Yes,
and think through
exactly.
things and
Yes, and
get
so-
somebody to talk things through and cry on their shoulder. And
Exactly.
that's amazing.
She was really cool like that.
Yeah. No, it's so cool because it's like that's my desire with my kids, and I see the way that you guys parent, and you guys parent very much in relationship with your kids, which is super cool, by the way. Super cool. It's something that I love and respect about you guys big time. And I mean that, not just because we're recording, like it's something that like I pay attention to the way that you guys are with your kids, and it makes an impact on me big time because I'm trying to learn from other people about how to be a better dad. And like, that's what's on my mind all the time, and yeah, no, that's definitely, yeah, you guys are definitely role models in your relationship with your kids. Be sure of that. Yeah.
So I think because my parents were so involved in that way, I mean, mind you, absolutely, I did have strict parents. I got the belt, got all the things, right? We had that strict, what's it called? Curfew.
Yeah.
We had the strict curfew and all that, but
You grew up with a disciplined structure. Sure.
yes,
Yeah.
but they were very, I feel like practical and persistent. And a lot of parents say, well, I don't want to force or I don't want to convince them. But the reality is the Lord puts you there on purpose to be their number one influence, to be their number one support. And you are the safest space for your child to express themselves to. And so you need to have the conversations. You need to have the patience, sit down with them. And I think that's why I parent my children in that way, because of the way my parents really invested in me. And so it's kind of funny because we were doing camp. I was doing camp since I was, basically I spoke English better than my dad. So, and I knew how to use Excel and emails. So I would set up camp structure and
So this is for Camp Emanuel.
it's for
which
Camp
is the camp
Emanuel.
that you guys run, but
Yes.
originally it was your mom and dad that ran it. Your dad was
Absolutely, yes. My dad's the founder.
the founder of it.
Yes. So really that's where Camp Emanuel was always part of something that I did, but I think I was viewing it more as like, I'm just helping my dad, speak proper English and communicate this
then
properly.
When you went to Moldova, what year was that?
Oh yeah, we're kind of going backwards now, if that's okay.
That's okay. We can jump around a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So your Moldova trip, was that after university?
Nope.
It was before.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. So this is when you were in high school?
Yes. So when did we go to Moldova? I was 10 years old. Yes, I remember
So
now.
Okay.
this is Camp Emanuel, like Anca was running camp since she was 10 because she was her dad's right hand.
Yeah.
And so that's always been the case.
So my parents were also very, my dad smuggled Bibles in Romania. Doing the Lord's work was like number one in our family.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So our church family and friends community was number one. Like I went to a public school, but like that community didn't exist for me
Right.
really because we were so heavily involved. So just kingdom living was number one in our household.
Awesome.
So my dad always took us to Romania on different trips, whether it was just literally my brother and I and my sister singing our instruments at an orphanage. I mean, it was like raw,
Yeah.
But we did that regularly. He had a good job, after so many years of America, where it was priority for him to expose us to the mission field. And people less fortunate, go and
What an
visit.
amazing testimony.
Yes, it's really exciting,
I had
actually.
no idea that your life was this wild. Like, no, that's awesome. I mean, your dad's so cool. Like, I really like your dad. Now I really like your dad,
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, your mom and your dad. So you guys went to the Republic of Moldova, right? Republic of Moldova or
Yes.
the Moldova part of Romania?
No, Republica Moldova.
Yeah, and
Republic of
what for, like, missions?
Yeah, so we actually, my dad worked with Micul Samaritian, it's called in
I
Romanian.
know Micul Samaritan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Great organization. Charity Cup actually worked underneath their umbrella for a
really?
while. And I know Moldova because I would go through Charity Cup to the Republic of Moldova. That's where I know John and Lavi Dobrea from. That's where I know, a bunch of people from. George Purac and Dave Misty. And anyways, yeah.
Okay.
That's where I met Danny Bora, who lives
Okay, yeah.
up here in Rochester Hills. And Danny Ardelian, the dentist. And he was actually my first missions coordinator. Anyways, but yeah, so I know Micul Samaritan. I know some of them, but I know the offshoot like that worked underneath them, the Charity Cup. Yeah.
so we grabbed the kids from that orphanage, and we grabbed the kids from the state, from the government-owned orphanages. We went into a broken down, basically medieval castle of some sort. It was an empty, abandoned villa. Basically, there was no running water. There was no electricity. Just very limited time slots of electricity. So that's where my brother and my dad went to. We were there for a month with these kids, and they were completely wild. I mean, they would portion our meals, right? You just get one bowl of porridge, like oatmeal,
Yeah.
3 times a day.
Do you remember what it was called? Was it hrishka?
Oh man, I don't remember.
It's like boiled buckwheat.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We ate plenty of that in Moldova.
But we were only given this portion 3 times a day.
That's
and because I was like this skinny little American girl, they would allow me to sneak into the pantry and give me an extra bite of peanut butter or something. It was so bad. But these kids would, no problem. They didn't mind. They would just literally capture a rodent of some sort and cook it over the open fire. And then,
These are orphanage kids?
yes, that's what they would eat.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I spent a couple of years working with orphanage kids in the Republic of Moldova. And for the people listening online, no exaggeration, nail on the head, exactly how it
Yes.
was. Just
Yes.
wild, feral children,
Yes.
which is like, I don't know, heartbreaking and kind of hilarious at the same
Yes,
time.
it is, yes.
It's just like, what am I witnessing right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially me being 10, I was like, wow, you guys are like the most coolest people I've ever met. I want to catch a groundhog and eat it too with you. So it was really cool because the Lord showed up in so many unexplainable ways. My dad literally was like, Anca, we're short-staffed. There's a lot of kids. You're 10 years old, but there's this group of boys that don't have a counselor, and you're going to have to, just tell them what to do. Talk about the Lord. You're doing great. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, don't worry about it. They're all taller than you. Just, keep going. And then my brother had a cabin of 10 boys as well. And these kids were ill in very many ways. For example, there's the cabin of boys that they all were wetting the bed at night. They were never trained. They were out in the wild, right? So we'd say, Lord, like, you are the same God yesterday, today, and forever. You did miracles. You can show up here and now. And my dad would have all of us staff go into the room where the boys slept, and it smelled, you could not even get close. It smelled so badly, but we would get right in the room, right in the middle of it, and we would pray for healing, over every single bed.
Wow.
And nobody was Christian at the time, only the kids from the orphanage, from the Christian orphanages were. And we would go pray with the staff, even though the staff were like, some of them were completely not Christian. They were from the state, from the government staff.
Right.
And the Lord healed that cabin of boys. Every single boy was healed. It's actually, I remember the name. It's Munduk was the name of the villa. Yes. And so the Lord healed every single one of those campers in that cabin. And we received, phone calls from the orphanage officials that those boys that were healed at camp were still healed and remained healed.
That's amazing.
So
Praise
much
God.
so much so that the staff came to know the Lord as well from the state orphanage, from the state-run orphanages. And it was just a month of just raw, real moments with the Lord. Like just every single day was a miracle. And the kids were learning Bible verses, singing, praising the Lord, and just God showed up in so many amazing ways. And because of, so the year prior, actually, my dad went with my brother only. And basically because of those experiences, my dad said, hold on a minute, like, Lord, you are the same there and in Michigan.
Wow.
Why don't we give our youth, our children, this opportunity? And basically, it's because we disconnected from, we had no Wi-Fi. You disconnect from everything, no electricity except the Lord, right? He's the most reliable thing. So my dad had his heart set on starting a camp for the youth here in Michigan and the surrounding area. So when we were traveling, trying to find a campsite, he wanted it further enough where the Wi-Fi wasn't reaching, right? So we could still physically disconnect from everything of this world and just like focus in. And I have to say that we have these expectations, or we hope that things go a certain way, but the Lord shows up in absolutely mind-blowing ways every single year at camp in ways that we would never imagine.
That's so awesome.
Yes, whether it's healing, direct healing, like in front of your eyes, or hearts being changed absolutely continuously, or things that we really never know about except years later. It's so exciting that all we have to do is literally set the time for the Lord. Like, just here's our heart, Lord. We're here. Speak to us. We want to hear from you.
That's amazing.
Yes, it's really cool.
Yeah, no, that totally ties into, the conversation that we had earlier. So Justin is our producer for the show, and his wife Becky is from Michigan, and you guys got to meet her not for the first time, but for the first time in years. Yeah, because she used to be a camp kid. She got saved at Camp Emanuel when she was a little girl, and just like an hour ago, she was in here and sharing that with you two.
So cool.
Yeah, it's so wild, like. And that's just one story, among thousands of stories that I'm sure you've heard, but among tens of thousands of stories that you haven't heard, that, you might hear. And if not, you'll encounter it in heaven. But what a testimony. And I didn't know the journey that, began with the orphanage and then concluded with, your dad saying, well, God's the same there as he is here. Let's do the same camp here. And it's really true. Like, as you give God the opportunity, supernatural things come up and happen, and God shows up, because God does not waste an opportunity. That's for sure. What happened with us in the Republic of Moldova was some years ago, like I want to say 2, might be 3 years ago. I had a bunch of photos from the 04 mission trip that I was on with everybody. 04, 05, 06. The 05 one, that hard drive was corrupted. That one was lost to time. But the 04 one, I'd collected everybody's photos. And I had, 6,000 photos, 4,000 photos, something like that. And that were still very usable. And so what I did is I just started uploading them to Facebook, like 1,000 photos at a time into a couple of different albums. And I just uploaded them just because I was like, you know what, dude, these photos are here. Maybe not everybody has a copy. Let me just put them up. And then people started tagging each other. Now, this is almost 20 years since we left the orphanage. And you know how it is. Those kids, you wonder what happened to them.
Oh, yeah.
And all of my Romanian friends started tagging each other. Well, some of them still kept in contact with some of those kids. So they started tagging some of those kids. But today, well, those guys all kept in touch with each other. So they all started tagging each other.
Wow.
And then I was able to start following their Facebook as people were being tagged to see where they are. And so many of them are Christians. So many of them give their lives to the Lord. So many of them wrote comments like, man, I can't believe, it's been 20 years. I remember, this is me. And then, like I'm looking through their photos now on their Facebooks, and I'm going way back in time, and like 18 years ago where they were, and, 17 and 16 and 14 years ago, and seeing their baptism. And it was just such a cool, snapshot. And just picking up a bunch of testimonies, that they were writing. I remember this one experience, that happened here, and it was because of this that it led me to that. And it was so cool. And it's like, man, even like everything that happened with, that state staff at that location, and everything that happened with all of those, kids that are now full-grown adults, because it's been years since then.
Right.
Whether you know about it now or not, or whether you get, the joy of receiving feedback on it or not. Those are life-changing, life-altering experiences, and it's tremendous. Yeah. No, camp is so important. I got saved at a youth camp. I got like radically saved at a youth camp when I was 16. And if it wasn't for that camp, man, I don't think I'd be a Christian today, unless God got a hold of me somehow else. Yeah, camp is so powerful. So powerful. My brother Joe ended up giving his life to the Lord at camp. Actually, he scheduled it several months in advance. He goes, when that camp comes, I'm going to give my life to Jesus. Just kind of a funny thing to do, Yeah, but no, camp is very, very powerful. So let me ask you about Camp Emanuel. Camp Emanuel, where Rafi was one of your camp kids, and now she's a camp counselor, and where Rafi had some really deep experiences with the Lord there. Yeah, actually, that's where she got saved as well, and she rang the bell and all of that. Now she's a counselor.
Bell, yes.
Yeah, the victory bell. And tell me about Camp Emanuel. Tell our viewers about Camp Emanuel. What is it? Is it just for one specific age group? Is it a week long?
Do you want to start?
Okay. We split it up by age, so it's 3 weeks, elementary, middle, and high. They're separated. And it is every single summer.
3 solid weeks of camp. And you split it by elementary, middle school, and high school. That's, sorry, I know we just started, but I just have to pause. So I used to do a week of camp, right? And we were young adults. 3 weeks of camp back to back is bananas, right? Like it is, for those of you that haven't put on a camp, it is a tremendous amount of work with 3 different age groups. Finding staffing must be incredibly difficult.
Yes, it is.
And finding the energy to be able to pull it off for 3 solid weeks with 3 different target audiences, with 3 different types of curriculum for 3 different types of target audiences is huge. How many years has this been going?
This will be our 26th year. Or is it 27th?
26, 27 years?
Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I married into it in 08, right? Yeah, that was 09 was my first year.
Yes, basically I was like, were we engaged already? Well, I told him, I said, there's kind of some criteria that you must follow. First, I have credit card debt. Right? Secondly, that you need to take care of. And secondly, we run this camp that we do every single year, and it's basically my life. And it's
you're marrying into it.
Yes, and if you don't like it, then
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. We're done.
No, that's so wild because okay, so it's 2026 right now. This camp is as old, actually, no, a little bit older than the youth conference.
Oh, really?
That's wild to think. Yeah, because this is supposedly the 25th year of the youth conference. If it started in 2000 or 2001, but yeah, then that would make camp a little older than the youth conference. That's huge, guys. That's tremendous. This many years, and then your father's still very involved with the camp. I was, got to hang out with him last year, and super cool. Okay, so sorry, I needed to pause there because you say it fast because to you it's your norm, but I just need to point out how not normal this is because it's a tremendous amount of work.
It is.
Yeah, and you guys do it on a volunteer basis.
Yes,
which is huge.
It is huge because we know it's almost camp time because weeks leading before camp, something usually very hard happens in the family. I remember one year, one of our kids got the stomach bug. Then the next one started. Then the next one started.
Oh,
and
dear.
I mean, camp was literally like 5 days away, and Greg went to the ER with one of our kids for the stomach bug, and we're like, "This is Satan. This is not normal, So this is not regular. This is a spiritual attack for sure."
Yeah.
So every single year, something traumatic happens for us, at least right before camp starts, and it takes us like in the middle of it. We're like, "Wait a minute, we need to pray. This is not normal. This is, we're getting attacked, and we need to come together in prayer." And it almost like every single time we're like right in the middle of it, and we're like, all right, let's just sit down and pray. And then things somehow work out, right?
Yeah.
The Lord always shows up and is good in that way, but it is incredibly difficult. But actually, we were just talking about this, the different roles we have in camp and how the aspect of camp that I deal with and the aspect of camp that Greg deals with. And I said, we are so heavily involved in so many different ways because we don't work together as much as side by side. And I said, and it's not something that like we have to work in harmony as much as like if you were not having the heart of wanting a title outside of your normal, dad, husband, and so on, like we wouldn't be married. So like we work together, but the Lord has equipped Greg in so many ways, and I'm so excited when I think of like because when we were starting from scratch and I was my dad's right hand and just, being able to communicate for him, his heart and the lessons, and especially with the language barrier, I was literally writing out miniature lessons that my dad would teach. We'd work together and I'd make the little worksheets for the kids to fill out, and I always thought, even as a teenager, 17, 18, 19 years old doing this, I thought, I know this isn't my place, but I'm not really teaching, and so when I then met Greg and he was all for it and on board and he started teaching, I mean, all the hard eyes for me because, he took that over so well and so beautifully. And it's just so exciting to I don't know, it's almost like I just feel lighter, that not only is he involved, but he's passionately involved in teaching.
No, that's fantastic.
Totally side note there.
No, it's good. It's great. Yeah, that's great. We could end it here. Me, Reg, shake hands. Like, yeah, buddy. No, but it's so beautiful, because it's not your ministry, and it's not, because so often, like in marriages or in families, it's like the husband goes and preaches and it's his ministry, or the wife has like a ministry that she does and it's her ministry. No, this is very much a family ministry for you guys, and not just you two, but you're like, I remember when I first got to meet your kids last year, which you guys have such awesome kids. Like, they're just the coolest kids. Like genuinely, you're one of the few couples that I'll hang out with you and I want to talk to you about your kids because they're that cool. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like when we were hanging out the other day, you were telling me about, your boys, shooting a turkey and stuff, and kind of what their journey is like. And it's such a joy. And so, but for you guys, I met your kids for the first time at camp last year. And one was just zooming by on an e-bike, and another was out by the pond, just fishing and stuff. They're very adventurous. And your kids are very much involved in camp. They're growing up at camp with all the other campers, and they're there the entire time, right? Yeah.
So I love that. The Lord's been good in working on their heart through Camp Emanuel as well. 3 of them did get saved at Camp Emanuel at different stages in their life, not all young ages. Our second, she loves to get in charge of the obstacle course, for example. And it kind of keeps us on track as well with our planning, because she'll be, Mom, I have to sit down and talk to you about this obstacle course and the material we need to buy, but I don't really know how to build this, And then my oldest will be like, well, what about this worship song, or what about this theme song? And so they kind of remind us I need to get that worship team put together. And so it's kind of cool how they have, inserted themselves as well, because we don't want to push and, but they've just jumped right in, and praise the Lord for that.
Yeah. And tell our listeners how many kids and what ages, because they might be thinking oh yeah, you've got, a 22-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old.
So on top of that, unfortunately, Michigan and Ohio are the only 2 states in all of the U.S. that require licensing. So even though we only do this for that set amount of days, we have to go through the entire licensing process and maintain that license every year.
Right.
So there's just a ton of hoops and just paperwork and so on that has to be maintained. And then, that adds to it. So there's
Let's see if you're going to get this right. Okay. Sephora is how old?
Are you asking about our kids?
Yeah. Sorry, with your kids, how old are your kids, and how many are they?
My bad. I thought you were asking about the age groups.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
Yes.
Your kids specifically.
Yes. So Sephora's turning 16 in September. Solace is 12. She's turning 13, right? Mm-hmm. And I had to ask. And then Valor's 10 and Vinny's 8.
Wait, hold on. I think I actually got it wrong. Isn't Solace 13? Yes, she is 13 years old. Yeah. Solace is 13, turning 14. Wow.
So I know. You have 4 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys.
Yes.
Your oldest is 16 and your youngest is?
Our oldest is 15 and our youngest is 8.
Your oldest is 15, your youngest is 8.
Yes.
And these kids have grown up at camp all these years.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We call them camp babies. Because my mom actually is the one that kind of just takes over them. And now they're old enough where the boys are old enough where they don't really need much babysitting, just other than a air tag.
We just put the air tag on them.
Flip an air tag on them.
That's awesome.
Send them off.
That's so awesome. And, 10 years ago, or not 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you guys were doing camp with a 3-year-old and with a 10-year-old and an 8 and a 7 or whatever. And 10 years ago, you're doing it with little babies. But through it all, I just want to encourage our listeners, to understand sometimes what ends up happening is people think, well, I'm going to get married and have kids and I'm going to stop doing ministry. And then, after I have kids for a season and then they're older, then I'll maybe get back into ministry. And it's like, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And there are so many examples of this. Like my family, my wife and I, we're very much in ministry, have been in ministry our whole lives, even with the little babies. Same thing with like John and Lavi Dobreya. Same thing with you guys. Same thing with the Ungurs. Same thing with, there's plenty of people. It's not like you have to go on pause to raise a family or to go to college. Like you can very much still be in ministry, and it's not actually to the detriment of your kids that you guys are in ministry. It's to their benefit.
Agreed. And I think it's, I guess one of the most important things to say is, and you mentioned, it's not your ministry. It's not, and that's really important to us because camp is not me. Camp is not Anca. Camp is not the founder, my father-in-law.
Right.
And it's just the Lord's work. And we're very purposeful in that because it happens, and any ministry happens, as you very well know, in spite of you, not because of you.
Yes.
And when
Perfectly said.
we just, I just think that's so important to say because, we obviously have all of our foibles, whatever they may be, whatever, even relationally, what we're always working through. At the end of the day, it's not because we have it made, and it's not because we're any better or any different. And whenever we see the Lord work, we're literally there for the ride. And it's just such a privilege and so awesome to be able to see him work and be part of that. So there's no, I guess, simpler way I can define ministry in terms of, waiting for God to send you wherever.
Yes, or give you the green light specifically.
Right.
Yeah, loud and clear. No, we don't,
Yes.
It would be easier if it was that way.
Right.
But for those of us that are in ministry, it's never that
Yes.
way.
No.
And
Yeah, and that's where, even sometimes, I'll talk to some youth and, how much they want to fast and pray before coming and so on. And God has to speak to me. And I'm like, don't worry about it. It's all good.
Yeah.
We will. But it's just, I just think that's so important because there's a lot of conversation we have. And as you may know, people might look at you different in some way, shape or form, but truly, there's no special privilege other than just, whatever you're burdened with to step into it. That's all it is.
yeah, there's a lot of times, there's always doubts and insecurities and, God, I'm not sure if I should do this and everything isn't right and nothing is lined up. And, I wish I had more training and more. And I remember when I became a youth leader, my old senior pastor had called me and he goes, hey, the previous youth leader has left our church. And I was talking, with some other brothers. And naturally, I think that, you'd be the next person to be the youth leader. And what do you think? And I was like, well, how much time do I have to pray about it? And he goes, I'm on the road driving to a comitet meeting where I'm going to present your name. By the time I get there, I need an answer. And I was like,
Lord,
okay, I'll call you back in, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. And I hang up the phone and I'm praying about it. And I remember talking to God about this. And I'm sitting there, I'm 22 at the time, and I'm going, God, I can't. I don't have the training. I don't have the schooling yet. I don't have the experience. I don't have like a mentor that can, go before me and teach me. I don't know the Bible as well as I'd like to. Like there's just, I've still got things I'm working on in my own life that I'm trying to figure out. I'm not the way that I see a youth leader should be yet, And I remember just explaining to God a long list of all of the things that I don't have. And I just felt the Lord impress upon my heart. And he just goes, well, what do you have? And I was like, God, all I've got is just this love that I have for you. Like all I have is this relationship with you. And I felt him say to me again, and he goes, good, that's exactly where I want you. Don't change.
It's your heart posture.
That's it. It's your heart posture. I remember calling back my senior pastor and I was like, okay, I accept, but just like temporarily for like 6 months. And, I'll do it for 6 months while we look for another youth leader. Like I'll be a stopgap, And even then I was kind of timid and doubtful. And he goes, okay, for 6 months. I was like, yeah, okay, great. He didn't mention anything about 6 months of the comité. Of course not, And then I was the youth leader for 9 years. And then in total for like 15 by the time I had moved, because I was the youth director after that. And it's so true how like saying yes to ministry is just trusting the Lord and not leaning. Because if I had all those other things, that's what I would lean on.
And
If I had
that's
the
it, right?
schooling and-
Because the moment you think you have it made, it's not the
don't.
Lord anymore.
Yes.
It's not,
Yes.
right? And that's what I struggle with. I mean, to this day, right? I'm the, perennial legalist, always, again, struggling with depending on myself, depending on whatever it is I have to earn or get to. So it's just the moment I'm reminded by, and now I'm fortunate enough to, be somewhere where I could do life, under the authority of a church, which is also just a huge blessing to have, where you realize that, hold on, okay, this is how I'm supposed to do church, as far as have people in my life that I, as, the person that's supposed to be the authority in my home, is under the authority of someone else that can tell me some things that I don't see.
Yeah, which is great.
Well, yeah,
It's healthy.
And I think that's how we were designed to live, right? In
Yeah.
His body, right?
Yeah. That's how it's supposed to be.
So, so just being reminded of that and always remembering.
Yeah.
So
No,
God
that's
is good.
And that's powerful, man. When it comes to ministry, we were talking about this even back at camp. So often I'll bump into guys that are like, I don't want to be, ordained. They keep on asking to ordain me. I don't want to be ordained, or they keep on asking me to take over this, position, and I don't want to take over that position. And I'll ask them, and I'll go, why not? And they're like, look, man, like I'm burdened for like the actual work, but I just don't want to deal with the bureaucracy. I don't want to deal with the politics. I'm not trying to make a name for myself. I don't care about any of that. The only reason why I would consider it is because I love the young people and I'm willing to do this thing for them, And I read this quote that kicked me in the teeth so hard, where it just goes, the punishment for not stepping into leadership is to be led by lesser men. I was like, man, that sucks, because it's so true, where it's like, if I don't step into this, because this is what happens. I've had follow-up conversations with some of those guys where they said no. And then the person that they put into it, they'll call me afterwards and they're like, dude, I didn't want the job. But the guy that they put, I could have done 10 times the job that guy could have. And it's like, no, you don't get to talk now.
Exactly.
Now you have to eat crow. And now you have to deal with that, because part of your no is what happened.
Right.
The consequences, And it's like, man, the reality is stepping into ministry is not about the ability, or it's not even about the outcome. It's just about the obedience. And I just feel like, man, God has so stripped me over these last couple of years about even the outcome, where it's just like, God, I'm just going to be faithful. Like, people ask me all the time where they're like, what made you decide to do this? Or, what are your plans for the future? And it's just like, dude, I've so given up on making plans. I've so given up on, like, people ask me, what made you move to Tennessee? And I was just like, dude, I don't decide where I go. What are you talking about? I didn't pick Tennessee. The Lord sent me there, and I know that I'm there for a purpose. I'm going to be faithful. And I just feel like God has stripped me of everything, to where, like, all I have left is, God, I just want to be faithful. Like, I used to, like, struggle to, like, try to accomplish big things. Now I just struggle to just be faithful, because I understand the burden of that,
Yes.
And what's really cool is the best work I've been able to do is when I'm just focused on being faithful.
Amen.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Like, even with your guys' camp, like, your kids have stomach bugs and everything's going sideways. You're like, I'm just going to be faithful. And then God does the coolest things.
Yes.
The neat part about it is that there's no false humility in that. Because, like when we lean on our own administrative skills and abilities, right? You like do something really well, like administratively, and then people are like, oh, wow, it's such a great job. And you go, it was the Lord, it was also all of your work, but you're like, it was the Lord. Well, when you're just trying to be faithful and you're like, your kids are sick and everything's going sideways, and God does like overly abundantly amazing things, and people are like, oh, like, that's so amazing what happened. You're like, no, you don't understand. Like, I had nothing to do with that.
Yes.
Like you were saying, Greg, like, it wasn't because, it was in spite of me. It was so God, and that's really, really cool, just seeing how when we get out of the way, God does the coolest things.
Yes, absolutely.
No, camp was a real joy for me.
Yeah, and then, like I told you, there's a lot of follow-up conversation after, so it was just a huge blessing to have you there. And that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about as well was, I know just from other conversations I've had with, other people that were, speaker circuit or really in the kind of public eye, it's so easy to kind of, and I know that this is kind of on the same track in terms of ministry and identifying with some sort of getting some sort of value from your ministry, which I feel like is such a danger when we identify with anything else, even ministry. But one thing I noticed, and it just really hit me because there's such a small handful of people I've ever met that don't have put so much value on their public ministry as much as on their just one-on-one interaction, and your passion for just putting out your heart there for just one-on-one mentorship and discipleship, and not being wrapped up in, again, I know just, back in the day looking at, because when Rafi told me about, Eddie, it's like, Eddie, hold on, I know that name. So just, go on YouTube and you've got whatever, hundreds of sermons and just being in the public eye like that. But then hanging out with you, just being hit by, hold on, really you have a heart for discipleship, just for people. And when you invest and just put your heart out and so deeply in people, and it's like you're essentially just putting it out there to be broken again and again and again and again. And that, again, knowing that there's so few people out there like that, to me, it means that, you've come to a place where what you just said, you don't serve because of the, and it's not the results that keep you going,
right?
Because you don't identify with the success of what you're doing. It's just, you identify with Christ, and you're just staying faithful, and you're just staying in that relationship with him. And it just means so much to me when I have conversations with people that, I'm talking about ministry, but there's no conversation around the results or the success of that ministry at all. Like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about just how we have conversations with people, and your heart for people specifically that you just put so much time and life into, which just means so much to me. And I just see that as so rare. So I'm just, what I wanted to ask you in terms of just that aspect of the time you spend in mentorship and in discipleship with people, is that something that you kind of, where has that led you, as far as like right now? From what I understood, you're in Tennessee, but how in the world did that even come about? And how was that pressed upon you? Because it was almost weird to me to see how, you're so like invited and just so much pressure to be in the public eye. But rather than that, you just keep going back to just literally pouring out your heart and your life just into, single people. And I wanted to ask you about that as well. That was really special. There's literally probably 2 other people that I know that have that much heart for people, specifically as far as just discipling.
So first off, you really honor me. Really, you do. Like, I genuinely feel honored, because I don't feel that way about myself. I really don't. And I'm not saying that because like, oh, like that's such a clever thing to say. No, like I just don't feel that way about myself. What's funny, man, is talking to some friends about this recently, where you end up doing in ministry what you wish you had when you were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a funny thing, because like in Habakkuk 2:2, I'm not trying to be like over spiritualize this. This is like really raw. Like in Habakkuk 2:2, Habakkuk says, "Write the vision, make it plain, so that he who reads may run." Right. So he's talking about writing this vision. But in Habakkuk 1:2, he's crying out before the Lord. Actually, it was God that tells Habakkuk that. He says, "Write the vision, make it plain, so that he who reads may run." But that was a response to what happened in Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 2, which Habakkuk is crying out to the Lord about what's happening to Israel, right? And he's crying out, he's saying, "Violence, O Lord," like everything that's happening to them. And so the argument there often that's made is, like the theological argument is that vision is birthed out of burden, right? Mm-hmm. And to take it one step further, I think that often we'll have burden for what we've gone through. If you went through, being abandoned by your parents, you'll have a burden for other people because you can relate to them that are abandoned, and so your hardships, your traumatic experiences, however you want to label it, right? So your trauma will often give you burden, which will often cast vision. Now, if we were to work that in reverse, does God allow people to go through hardship for his glory? Yes, i.e. Christ, okay? Yes. If God wants to birth vision in someone, would it ever make sense then for him to first give them burden by allowing them to go through trial? You see the reverse, right? So trial to burden to vision. And so it's like, oh, wow, this makes sense. And also like horribly sad at the same time, which is my greatest pet peeve in life has always been, since I was little, inconsideration. Whenever people are inconsiderate of one another. And I only realized some years later that it was because I grew up not feeling considered. And it's like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that's horrible. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, And so what ended up happening was, like, I ended up developing this relationship with the Lord when I got saved. And it all revolved around the fact that he valued me. Not for what I could one day produce for him or for what I could become, but that he valued me for me.
Right.
And I couldn't believe that. Like, man, that crushed me. And it's a funny thing because I remember when I gave my life to the Lord at 16th in Portland, Oregon, Southeast 52nd, Southeast Duke. There's this big tabernacle there. It says Jesus, Light of the World. The letters are like the size of a car, each letter. And there's this Apostolic Faith Church of all places at this camp meeting. And I went down to the altar and I was just like, I just felt that God, really loved me. Like what ended up happening was that all of my Romanian friends had gone home because it was a 2-week camp, right? It's a camp experience. And after the first week of camp, I didn't know they were all staying for a week. I booked for a whole 2 weeks. And I only booked it for 2 weeks to get away from my parents, from my dad specifically. Like I had the worst relationship with my dad. And I went to the youth conference, the Romanian youth conference, did a lot of inappropriate things at the Romanian youth conference. Like I was the problem. And then from there, I went to this youth camp. And at this youth camp, we had stayed for a week. And then after a week, all my friends went home. So I didn't know anybody. Like there was nobody that I knew other than an aunt of mine. And I remember I went down to the altar after being really bugged by Brother Gale, this old man with this clicky-clacky cane that would like break down into like a circle like this big, but he would unclick it. It was click, 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 click. And all the time he'd say, hey, Adrian, you want to go pray? At the end of every service is an altar call. And I was like, no. And then by the time of the last service had come, Brother Gale, I hear his, at the time, it was his stupid cane, clicking together.
Clickety-clack.
And I remember just walking past them and I was just like, Brother Gale, I'm going to go pray. And I was just angry. Like I had so much anger inside of me. And every step that I took going down that aisle, by the time I got down to the altar, I just got angrier and angrier and angrier. And by the time I finally got down to the altar, like I was raging angry. And I was just like, you know what, God? And I just laid everything out about why I'm justified in like not believing in God and why if he was real, he deserves me to hate him. I mean, just all of it. I mean, just pouring it all. I was just angry. I wasn't crying. I wasn't trying to give my life. I wasn't trying to meet with Jesus. I just wanted to vent. And I remember a couple minutes in, I hear somebody crying. It's a true story. I hear somebody crying over my right shoulder. And, but you can tell like they were like sobbing, And when people sob, they make an ugly face. And I wanted to see what their stupid face looked like. All right, that's a true story. And that's going through my head. And I was just like, oh, they're probably making a stupid face. I make a stupid face when I sob. I was like, I want to see what that looks like. So I turned around, just in my own stupidity. And I turned around to see this person. And I remember it was Alina Barros. And Alan was there, and Gina, and some other friends of mine. They weren't friends of mine. They were the Christian kids that I would always give a hard time to. And they were crying over my soul. And dude, that crushed me because it was one of the first times in my life that I felt God speak to me. And there was like, I don't know, 15, 20 people. I knew maybe 4 of them, and the rest of them I didn't know. And the Lord had just told me, he goes, do you see how much I care about you? See how much I love you? And man, it crushed me. Like I just turned around, I just started bawling. And I was just like, dude, I can't believe that you're really real. And what do you mean you love me? Like, how could you send these people that I would give a hard time to? How would you send these strangers to pray for me? And then sometime later, as I'm sitting there talking with the Lord, I remember I heard somebody really weeping. Now this time I wasn't trying to see their stupid face. I was looking for a tissue. But I turned around and there was like 70 people in altar. Now, I had asked them afterwards because I was the only person still in the altar. And there was like 70 people around me praying for me. And I had asked multiple of them, I said, why were you guys praying for me? And they said, I just felt the Lord told me that I need to go and pray for you at the altar. Well, the second time when I turned around, I still remember seeing Brother Gale. He was like 5 aisles back, and he's sitting there and he's holding his cane and he's nodding because he had told me 3 days before, he goes, the Lord told me you're going to get saved before you leave camp. Now, this is the last service, last altar call. It's now or nothing. And he's just sitting there and he's nodding, and I still remember his face. And when I saw all these people, I just felt God speak to me a second time. And he goes, do you see how much I love you? And it just crushed me again. And so I'm sitting there, and I remember talking with the Lord, and this is what I said to him. I go, Lord, if you want me, you can have all of me. Now, at the time, my theology isn't obviously what it is today, so I gave him conditions. If you can imagine, And I said, God, if you want me, you can have all of me. I said, on 2 conditions. I go, number 1, if I'm in all the way. Don't use me to bring you a little bit of glory. Use me to bring you a lot of glory. Like, if I'm in, I'm in. Okay. And I go, number 2, if there is a job that no one wants that you are desperately looking for a man for,
oh no,
give me that job.
That's hard.
Yeah, that was my prayer. And I said, if you'll take me on these conditions, I'm in. And I felt like I had become weightless. Like I was carrying a backpack that I had not known that I was carrying my entire life, of just the weight of sin.
Wow. And
in an instant, I felt, I don't want to say in my physical body, but it was as much as a physical feeling. I just felt this weight come off of me. Mm-hmm. And I knew that the Lord had washed my soul clean and that I was saved. Like that was my experience.
It's amazing.
And it just transformed me. And I have so many more things I could tell you about that time, but like to the point to where my older brother Franco picks me up from the airport. And he picks me up from the airport, and I get off the plane. This is, a few days later. And I get off the plane, and Franco sees me, and he goes, hey, Eddie, and I was like, oh, Franco. And he stops, turns around, he takes 2 steps, walking in the direction that we're headed. And he stops, and he turns around, and he looks at me. My brother Franco at the time didn't believe in the Lord, stops, turns back around him, and he goes, what's different about you? Mm. And just recognized right immediately. Right. He's just like, I don't know, but there's something off. A friend of mine, Anna, reached out to me a couple of days later, and then we had met up, I think at church or something, and she goes, when I heard that you got saved, I couldn't believe it. Anna goes, you don't understand. She goes, we had all been praying for you for years. Now, I didn't know this. And she goes, Eddie, on a sunny day in California, when you're in the shade, you know how you're a couple of shades darker than when you step out into the sunlight? She goes, you looked like that even in the sunlight. Like there was just always a shadow about you. There was a lot of darkness in my life. I don't necessarily mean sin, but just a lot of darkness just in my heart and in my soul. And she goes, I'm looking at you now, and it's like there's just a sunshine on you all the time. I remember this conversation that I was having with her. And so the reason why I tell you that is because when God saved me, I couldn't believe that he loved me that much. And that marked me to the point to where I couldn't care less for institutional ministry if it doesn't grow God's kingdom. I don't care. Yeah. You know what I mean? I couldn't care less for position, for title, for any of that. In fact, I would run away from it. I have no interest in any of it. When it comes to metrics and, I've led this many people to the Lord and so on, and that's fine. Everybody can do whatever they want. But for me, I just don't care. What I care about is, I love God and I love people, and I want them to know the Lord, and I want them to have the same experience that I had with God. And that's what drives me. That's what compels me. And so sorry, I just keep on choking. Even with camps, even with your guys' camp. Oftentimes I'll accept, but usually I typically only want to speak once. I'll end up speaking more times, and that's fine. But typically, I'd like to speak once. Most people, they want to speak on Sunday night because that's the big night. You know what I mean? I want to speak on Friday. If I go to a camp, I want to speak on Friday, but I always ask to stay the entire time. I want to be there. I'm using the preaching to get into your camp so I can spend the entire time one-on-oneing with all of the young men and all the young women there, so I can have relationships and invest in them and have time to talk. Where other speakers are different. They'll fly in on Sunday, preach, and fly out Sunday night. Mm-hmm. I have no interest in that. honestly, I don't even feel like my calling in life is to preach. I really don't. I feel like my calling in life is to disciple. And so that's where that comes from. It comes out of that one-on-one experience with the Lord, where it's driven me to be in relationship with him and in relationship with people. It's funny because I had a guy ask me about small group discipleship, and I've been working a lot to try to figure out about how to write a manual on small group discipleship. There's just a real problem with it. Because a manual is going to outline a model and a methodology.
Right.
And that's really wrong in the approach.
Right.
And it's funny because it's like the entire manual for small group discipleship, Jesus already outlined in the fact that he goes in John 13:35, by this the world will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. As I have loved you, so shall you love one another. And it's like, dude, if you just actually love people, which most people think they do, but they don't. Like if you just actually love people, discipleship will happen automatically.
Yes.
That's the whole model. And so I've been trying to figure out how to like create a model for this so we can replicate it. And it's just like, no, you just got to actually love people. I feel like maybe if I wrote a manual, it would be like a trap. It'd be like a bait and switch. You know what I mean? But it'd be like, here's a manual on how to like, do small group discipleship. It'll be one page, the rest of them will be blank.
People.
And the first page will start off with, you think you love people, you actually don't. Here's ways that you can assess yourself. Go through these assessments and then see if you actually love people. And if you don't, here's how you start loving people. And then the rest of it will just be blank. That's it. And it'll just happen automatically.
Yes, I love that.
So sorry, I'm like choking here now, but essentially like the thing that drives me in being more relational and not caring about the metrics and so on is really just the love of God. It really is. And I can't take credit for that, obviously. It's that I can't believe that he would care enough about me to save my soul, not for me to produce something for him, but just because he wants me. And that's what's marked me. And it hasn't left me since. So
That's really cool.
That makes me think about the camp lessons this year. Were you just going to say that?
Yeah, well, part of that. And that's why for us, it's so basically what you said is, you met God and how you received that love. And that's when we receive that love, then we can truly give it when we receive it. But it's always so difficult when we try to, know about God, but not truly know him. And then we have kind of, even this year, we always say that our secret agenda is the gospel, and we try to make it, more diagnostic like that. Like, hey, if we're talking about God, here, views of God. How do you view God when this happens? How do we react? What does that mean in terms of how we actually view God? But, even then, sure, we have these ways to try to help us diagnose our actual theology, our lived theology. But at the end of the day, like you were saying, it's all the Holy Spirit and how he opens up the eyes of our hearts so that we could truly meet him, and just being there to build that environment for those interactions.
yeah, I mean,
And that's it.
That's really it.
Because if you don't have that environment where, hey, no electronics at Camp Emanuel, we're militant about that. So
Yeah.
even to the point where the
is
kids,
great.
there's kids every year that are, just on the side that, deal with withdrawals, and they're literally
yeah.
shaking and everything. So, but it's at the end of the day, we're really, really, just put a lot of intentionality in talking to the staff in terms of even conversations that, because again, even with my own kids, and we all come out of families and schools where it's all about behavior management, and we're not, at the end of the day, you're not changing anyone by managing their behavior. It's heart change. So how do we have interactions where instead of just, talking down to or reacting to whatever the situation is, do we stop and ask, what's underneath? Do we stop and try to get curious and have a conversation to figure out what belief is behind that interaction or that behavior, so that we can work together to replace that belief with the truth, and just doing that, and that all happens naturally, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not a manual. It's just, if we love on people, that's what we'll do with them. So
It's funny
really
how
cool.
simple that is, and we're like, I got to read the next book about how to strategize. And it's like, no, you really don't. You just have to genuinely love people, and then God does the rest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's like people know me as like kind of like an evangelist, like a traveling preacher, as a
Right.
minister, as a pastor. You know what I mean? But in some ways, I'm a fraud, and what I mean by that is, I will travel as a minister, not to be a traveling preacher, or to just sneak in to be able to do the ministry that I want to do, which is one-on-one pastor people. Because I like my burden and my calling is really pastoral. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I'll be the traveling preacher if it gets me into your camp, and then I can meet with the young people and action vets. Because even like if you guys remember last year at your guys' camp, after my last sermon, I just sat in that room and just talked with the boys one-on-one as they came through, until the wee hours. And that's like my favorite part of all the camp. You know what I mean? Were those moments. I still keep in touch with some of those boys.
That's really cool.
Yeah. They'll text me like paragraphs. Like the other day, one of them texted me, and it was just like a short text, and I was like, oh, it's like the shortest one he sent me. And I read through, and I got to the bottom, and I was like, oh, there's a read more. And then it just dumped the rest. I was like, there it is. So yeah, but great guys, really cool. It was really transformational for me as well, being at camp, seeing the spiritual status and the health of some of these young men. And in the underlying premise is the issue. Like I'm talking with a young man who I still have a great relationship with, and I'm really happy for him. Super cool guy. He's probably going to listen to this podcast. And he says to me, he goes, I have a really like deep burden for like the homeless community. And I was like, oh, that's great, And he goes, well, and he's crying, like he's bawling, talking about this. And I was like, this is awesome. This is such a great, I don't know what you want to talk to me about, maybe just to pray for you or something, like just encourage you. That's great. And he goes, but there's still some sins that I'm working through, so I have to figure those things out so I can get saved, and then maybe God can use me. And then he kept on talking, and I was like, wait, there's a premise issue here,
Yes.
And I was like, what? And he thought I got hung up on the fact that he admitted to having sin in his life.
Oh man.
It was like they just got another layer,
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I do have some sin in my life. I was like, no. Like, no. What do you mean you got to get saved? That's what I got hung up on.
Right.
And he's like, well, yeah, I have to like get this sin out of my life so then God will accept me.
And that's exactly what is like drives our burden in terms of just camp.
Yes.
Because man, do you know God? If you, right. So, and that's going back to, again, the whole thing that I said, I differed with you a little bit, because when, regardless of what church we go to, we're either at, that one where God is only love and only grace, and then we've got an issue because there's, just that one facet, or like we grew up where he's none of that and it's all
right.
And so from that perspective, it's just heartbreaking, because
It is.
Unless we know him, unless we have and the more we know him, right, the more, and I just look at myself too. I mean, as difficult as it is to admit, right, we've lived in this all our entire life, but it's, living in that tension of, not just already, but not yet, but just even receiving that grace every day and coming to the point where, you still have to get through situations where you get to the end of yourself yet again. And it's like, really? So, here I am again, getting to the end of myself just so that I can be drawn in again to his love, just so I can realize again that it's all him. And so just having that burden that we have, I think, for the youth that have, again, such a small, incomplete view of who God is, because at the end of the day, it informs absolutely everything. Everything we do is informed by, completely affected by how we view God. Yeah. And that's really how we live.
Function from that identity.
That's it. Yeah. And then, like you said there, how we view God, then it comes down to how we view ourselves. And really, it all starts there, right? With identity, who we are.
Yeah.
Our number one question at camp is, how do I know I'm saved? And what if I lost the Holy Spirit?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, you can't misplace the Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
And it just shows you, where we're learning from and where we're functioning from in our lives.
What is the standard that we're looking at that we begin with? Yeah. Yeah. And I don't disagree with you on that. I think we're on the same page. I don't think that it's intentionally taught in a works-based way, but I do think that the issue is teaching. I do think so. I agree with you completely on that.
Yeah, even if it's not intentional, that's just how we.
Yeah.
That's just really religiosity, because it's so much easier to give me, the flesh wants a set of rules because it can manage, again, self-reliance.
It can manage against self-reliance.
Right, and
nice.
not tension, not relationship.
Yeah.
Because when it's all relationship, then it's there's a lot of tension there. There's a lot of what are you holding on to, what you're not holding on to, and just like conversations, which is you might find weird, but even this year it's big in terms of having conversations around if we do know Christ, then and it is about relationship. How does tension fit in? What are the things that are the most the things that we could truly depend on? And that's really everything else is moving, shaking. Everything else is
right.
Nothing. We can't rely on anything other than the only certainty is Christ. Right. And if we're constantly looking for certainty anywhere else, then like I was saying earlier, we've got systems, we've got rules, we've got whatever it is that we hold on to because we're not holding on to that relationship. Yeah. We're not holding on to the things that, he's revealed to us in terms of, who we are in him and how he's accepted us and what that means for our walk. And then, obviously that messes up, our holiness and everything else. So it's not about giving license, but it's truly just walking in that relationship and realizing that that's what sanctification looks like, right? When he does it in us. So just these very basic things that we really try to impress and we think about all year as far as how can we make these things as sticky and as real, things that we talk about, that when we say sanctification or we say all these other Christianese, terms that really don't mean anything to us. But how does that actually work? Because if we knew how it worked, then we wouldn't have these questions about, am I saved? Did I lose the Holy Spirit? So yeah, that's where our burden is.
The question becomes so revealing of the status.
Yes.
Where it's like, can I lose the Holy Spirit and how do I get it back if I lose it? Right. Like you were saying earlier. So I'm a big believer of the Socratic method. It's really Socratic method. It's a method that Jesus developed, same exact method, which is asking really good questions that leads people into answers. Sometimes you ask snarky questions on purpose because, it'll help kind of spotlight like the issue with the phrasing of the conversation, which reveals the underlying premise. Like when somebody, like I'll have young people ask me sometimes at the youth camps and stuff. They're like, what do I do like if I've lost the Holy Spirit? And my answer to them would be like, well, have you checked under the bed? You know what I mean? Like, did you look in the last pants you wore? What do you mean when you lose? Define that. And then we have to sit down and talk about, well, do I have him? Does he have me? Am I in Christ? Is Christ in me? What does that look like? And it really comes back to teaching, Yeah. And then the question is when somebody knows how to parrot a phrase, do they understand that just because you can parrot a phrase, that doesn't mean that you've learned it? Because knowing and understanding are two completely different things, right? So you can know the answer, but do you understand, right? And then what does that look like to practically apply into your life? And that's where the challenge comes. But the beauty about camp is you can actually sit there and have these dialogues.
Yes.
You can have these conversations because I can teach from the pulpit all day long, but if you got it or not, I don't know. And sometimes somebody will get hung up on just one thing, and then if I'm building a chain of logic, right, go A to B and B to C and C to D and D to E and E to F for 45 minutes I'm preaching. If I lost you at B, C through F doesn't matter because I can't build.
Yes.
And when we're having a conversation, when it's a dialogue, I'm going, I think that was thorough enough. I don't think I have to explain this. But when you have a conversation with people, they're like, well, what do you mean by this? And you're like, oh, yeah, I can explain that. Yeah, no. And that's why I love like the conversation aspect. That's why I love the, when we would do the summit, all of the staff would not stay in staff housing. We would split them up, like undercover agents, but intentional, but we would split them up into all the cabins. And the reason why, like all the staff, and myself and my wife, we would separate and she would go with the girls and I'd go with the guys. And the reason why is because some of our favorite moments were we would have lights out at camp. Like everybody has to bed at 10, lights out, quiet times at 11, lights out at midnight. Well, from 11 to midnight, we're just sitting in our beds and we're having, kind of conversation. We're just sitting there and just chatting. Nobody's got any screens open. So we facilitate an environment where you can, kind of wind down and ask questions, and people kind of roll up on their bed because they're not tired yet, because they're young. And you're like, hey man, let me ask you about this, or what about that? And those were so pivotal in the development of relationship and the development of their theology. And then the next day, well, some of those guys now. Now there's conversations that are coming out of it. And then you follow up afterwards. And that's where unity and community happens.
Yes.
Camp is tremendously special.
We call that family time at camp.
Yeah.
We literally have that 10 to 12, 10 to midnight, and we call it family time, where we're just...
Yeah, having, again, these interactions where, for example, you've got, kids that, one of them's ostracized just because he's acting out like no tomorrow.
Right.
And I knew why. So I'm like, okay, so, go have family time. Here's what we're going to do. We're just going to go around the circle and pray for each other. But before we pray for each other, let's just talk about, the one thing you'd like the guy next to you to pray for you about. And, young kids, and, the one acting out is, hey, my dad died this year. So if you guys want to pray for me, and I asked, okay, and what about your mom? My mom already died 3 years ago. All of a sudden there was this shock, right? And it's like, oh, just knowing those around us and doing life with them, and having that where you're building, I know it's kind of artificial, but it's, building that environment where you have the dialogue, and we try our best all year to work with prepping these questions as far as, diagnosing, what our view of God is, how do we react to sin? What does that mean that we think about God, and so on. So we try to prep as much as possible, but then the big thing is doing life as community, and just understanding that we're the body of Christ, understanding that, like they say, we're the only people that can't see the back of our heads. So how do we create these interactions amongst them, and even having conversations, which, we always caveat it with, hey, you guys are in your own churches. So in your own churches, your views, you're still under the authority of those views. So that for you is, but let's have a conversation. You guys can talk about, things that you see different, and realize that, hold on, we're still brothers in Christ. And there is, and I love doing this every year, where, when we have our Q&A, all the, before we answer any questions, we take the big stack of, secondary issues.
Yes, primary versus secondary. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so I'm, reading all the secondary issues, and it's like, okay, what do these have in common? Because, can someone still be saved? Because if all of a sudden everything is primary, we have a deeper conversation, which that's how we grew up, right? Everything is primary.
Everything's a primary issue.
Which again, how do we know Jesus and his word if everything is? So just having these conversations, like you were saying, is and these experiences, so that you can do life with other people, so that you can have conversation and interaction, is what makes, I think, this type of ministry and this type of environment so effective.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's beautiful. I love that you guys do camp. I love that you guys have such a sacrificial heart for it. I love the impact that it makes. No, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's super cool. Please keep doing camp for another 26 years.
This year we actually have 2 families. We were talking about, getting married, and people kind of call it quits after that. We have 2 families that are volunteering. They're coming with their little baby, and
That's
they're
awesome.
going to be doing family time at night, and doing little prayer circles and discussions. So that's really exciting, that life doesn't stop after you get married. And we were talking about devoting your time and your energy even with the entire family. So that's really exciting. Yes.
And then they're coming for a week or a different week, or
so one's a husband and wife team where he is a counselor full time, and she's going to be our photographer the whole time.
Wow.
She's coming with her 2 kids in tow. And the second family is, they have I want to say she's about 6 months old. And so they're going to just be separating to do the, girls discussions, guys discussions.
Great.
He's going to be doing a sermon and sermonette, and doing the prayer circles. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
And as time progresses and more of your counselors grow up and get married, you're gonna have to add a 4th week for a family camp.
Ooh. Semi started doing.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how you see. So how, and I'm going to call him out here, the gentleman that he's he was there the first year I went to camp when I got involved in '09. And somehow by some sort of weird situation, he got placed with the youngest boy group. So how old were they? Like
6.
7-year-olds?
Oh, yeah.
So, and I remember walking past him at night. He had finally managed to put the kids down. And he was kind of just leaning on there was this like, the balcony outside. He was just like leaning, like staring into space. I'm like, oh man, I gotta go talk to this guy because he's done.
Sauced.
Yeah. So I go, are you okay? He's like, not really. And then he goes, so this is like, almost a 250 pound, 300 pound dude. That's just like all muscle. And, so, he's like, I just realized, how God must look down at us and feel about us, just like talking to us. And we just cannot hear a single thing he's telling us. And I'm like,
he's so excited and he's so exhausted from wrestling his voice.
Just with the boys. But then, after that, he went on and founded Camp Calvary, which is that
18
youth
and up.
18 and up.
Yeah, very cool.
So it's just cool to see how all these interactions over the years and how people have just seen God work. And just, again, it's totally in spite of us. We're just able to be along for the ride and watch God do his thing every year. And it's just such a privilege to be able to see him at work.
No, that's awesome, man.
So
What a cool project. Did you guys have anything else that you guys wanted to discuss?
I did want to add just one thing
Yeah,
to the
please.
whole salvation story. So again, I feel for the kids that are raised in church. And I feel like we have this burden to like get it right from the start, and then we have to keep this facade going. But even in my walk with the Lord, my ups and downs, at this point I was already married, 2 kids in, and we went to, we were attending an American church in Canada, and
Canadian church.
a Canadian church.
But we're Romanians, we say Americani.
Oh, that's so funny.
Which, by the way, was so confusing to me. When I moved to Canada, I was like, shit, American, because we're in Canada. But okay, so we were attending a Canadian church, and the way he presented the gospel in such a raw, basic form, and as a kid that was raised in church all my life, just the simplicity of it just broke me down, and I was like, the type of cries. I
Like
was
sobbing, yeah.
bawling my eyes out. And Greg's like, are you okay? Or is something wrong? Like, are you okay? And I'm like, I've just never heard of this before. And he's like, Anca, this is the basic gospel. And I'm like, I don't know. I just never heard it to this. Like, I think you were saying how there's one thing where you understand something, or when you feel something in your bones, and you can not just convey it back, but you believe it with every fiber of your being. And I think that was my moment for me, where I completely understood and was overwhelmed by grace.
Awesome.
And what that did to me in the way that we were with each other and in the way that I was with my children. It changed my perspective in life so much. So it wasn't really like that's the moment I was saved, as much as like it's we bounce around as, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm so glad that you share that example, because there are times of revelation all the time in a Christian's life where like new things are revealed. And
Yes.
like I look at the Apostle Paul, right? And the Apostle Paul, right in the beginning of his ministry, he goes, I am least of the apostles. But halfway through his ministry, he goes, I am least of all of the saints. Right before he's about to die, he goes, I'm the chief of all sinners. Now, this isn't rhetoric. This isn't like clever, terminology. He's been, trying to like, set everybody up, before he drops a one-liner or something. This is inspired by the Holy Spirit. It's written by the Apostle Paul. It's the truth. It's how he felt. It's how he saw himself. And it's like, well, us as Christians, well, I've been 20 years in the ministry, and I travel here, and I've spoken at, all the numbers, that numbers game. I've pastored a church this size, and, we've done camp for, whatever, and this many people, and all of us, in that same way, so, I'm an ordained minister, and we kind of like, we wear these like different badges from like different battles we've been in, or how many years of service we have, kind of like in the military, and the more years that go by, the more that we grow. Well, Paul was a better Christian before he died than when he first got saved. He had matured and grown, and definitely he knew more of Christ. And that's the kicker. How come Paul saw himself as less at the end than he did, in the beginning, is it because he became less than he was? No, it's because he knew more of God at the end, and he realized just how much smaller he was than he actually thought
Absolutely.
in the beginning.
Absolutely.
And it's like, man, that's so cool, because it's like, yeah, we're saved, we're Christians, but it's like, man, the more you find that about God, the more that God reveals things, and the more like you have those moments like you were sharing, Anca, where you're just like, man, like I know that I know this, but God just helped me understand it in a deeper way, and it's just crushing me right now. Like, I feel like the lesser we become, the more he is in us, right? Like, like John says, I must decrease that he might increase.
Amen.
And it's the same way inside of me. It's like, man, like the more that I become less, the more that I see Jesus like really, and I don't just mean like in a clever rhetoric sort of way. I mean, like, dude, I thought I understood God before. I didn't know anything.
Yes.
And a few years from now, I hope that I feel the same way about how I am today.
True. Yeah.
And no, that's really, really cool. I love that you said that, because it's so easy to try to like get saved, baptized in the Holy Spirit. And that's like the third degree, we'll look at it and go, boom, I got it. Now pitch a tent and settle. And it's like, no, man, there's so much more to God. Yes. Yeah. That's so cool.
I guess just that concept again, just shows that we don't know him, and that and as time goes on, and I just see that, you're, halfway through life almost, and you're like, oh, still wondering why, quote, sanctification is so slow. But at the end of the day, the more you know him, the more you realize that there's less of you, right? And somehow we're okay with, and we understand salvation so easily, right? It's okay, it was God, it was grace. But then we think that our walk or our sanctification or our holiness has anything to do with us in terms of it actually happening, right? And instead of abiding and instead of beholding his glory so that we can be transformed from glory to glory, we do everything else except behold.
Yeah.
And I just, I struggle with that still.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but we all do. I know I still do. Like, my natural tendency is, all right, what are we going to get up to?
Yes.
But it's like you said, it's like we look at what we do rather than, just beholding him, just being with him. And it's funny because I was trying to explain this concept to a friend of mine who had grown up very much in the, earn your salvation kind of, structure of like the doing, and I was just explaining to them, I was like, dude, it's not about doing, it's about being. And then the doing will flow out of the being. The being is not a byproduct of the doing, right? And I was like, so just like focus on Christ and draw near to him and just be with him. And he goes, okay, but how do I do that?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And we just both busted up laughing. It was like, man, it's so ingrained in us. Like, how do I do that?
Totally.
Yeah, no, but it's true. And it's so, like, it's going to sound really stupid, but it's totally true. Like, it's really difficult until it's not. And if you've been on the other side, like, okay, like if you ever jump off of a high dive, like it's really hard until the moment you jump, and then it's not, Right. And it's the same way where it's like, well, how do I just like be with Jesus? And then you're like, all right, fine. I'm just going to like try to just sit here and think on Jesus. And then you're like, dude, that was so hard, but now it's like so not. Like I just have to spend time with him. And then he realigns your perspective. He renews your mind. He transforms your soul, and then it just flows out of you. Like, here's where the kicker is, I think. We think obedience is necessary for salvation, and obedience isn't a necessity for salvation. Obedience is a byproduct of salvation.
Right.
Obedience flows out of salvation. Like, I'm not saved because I'm obedient. I'm obedient because I'm saved.
Yes.
And when we get the cart in front of the horse, then we try to put God into this box where I have to fit him within my understanding. You see it in little phrases where people go, well, I wouldn't believe in a God who...
Right.
What? A God who doesn't fit within your sense of right and wrong?
Yes.
That's insane. You know what I mean? But we don't even catch the premise. And yeah, anyway, this is where the joy of this conversation comes in, because it's like, you can be saved, you can be a minister, you can be married, you can love the Lord, you can be a camp leader, and you'll hear a sermon on something that you know about, you've taught about, and it'll just wreck your world. And you'll sit there and you'll go, I didn't know it like this before. Mm-hmm. And it's so exciting to know that, like, on every single subject in Christianity, that opportunity is waiting for each one of us, all of us here, for all time. You know, like,
Yes.
like that's so cool. There's so much more to know, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
What an adventure.
that's where it's, again, getting back to, is that what excites us? You know, or is it other things we're just, you know, curious about or
Yeah.
looking for the next great thing or next great experience?
And that's the analysis. That's the tool to measure.
Yes.
What does excite you? And then are you going to be brutally honest with yourself? So, parting shots, last question. There are people all over the country that listen to this podcast and that, you know, are going to hear of your guys' story and camp and Moldova and, you know, working with the orphans and everything else and working with, you know, the young men and young women here, that they are on the fence about stepping in the ministry or not. And you know what it's like stepping in the ministry, the fears, the concerns, the things that are not enough, that there isn't enough money, I can't unless I have these guarantees. And I just want to ask from your guys' perspective, what would you encourage those people with that are on the fence about stepping into ministry?
I think the Lord equips each individual. It's not just gifts and talents, it's also personality, vibe,
Yeah.
as we say nowadays. Their persona, their influence that they don't even realize they have, that really, like, you're unique and God made you that way because he specifically is using your uniqueness and your personality for his kingdom. So I think about our staff and I get so excited for specific individuals that are, you know, they're like, I'm making time I'm doing it this summer. I'm quitting everything. I'm coming to Camp Emanuel for a session. And I'm like, all right, like we need a hype team. You know, we need a hype girl. We need someone that's very structured. We need someone that knows how to handle hard situations. We need someone that can speak life into someone else. And there's just so many facets that we don't really realize now. We don't realize the things that we've been through or just the way that God wired us or just what makes us tick or just what makes us, the way we laugh is how it's affecting the kingdom.
Yeah.
And the way we handle a situation or a problem. Quick example, I have this one particular girl on our team that she's hilarious and she can confront the most obnoxious teenage boy and get him to fall in line in the most hilarious, beautiful, and peaceful way.
Awesome.
It's so incredible to see. I'm just like, wow, that just happened, you know? So I think when we start to question, am I ready for this, God? What do you need from me? We are limiting the Lord. Like, this is how we expect him to work through us versus our heart posture being, here I am, Lord, serve me. Here I am, Lord, I want to serve you, use me for your kingdom in any way. And God uses the way he wired us for his kingdom.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. It's about being willing to say yes. Mm-hmm, yeah, yes. No, that's fantastic. And I love how you pointed out the uniqueness of each person. There's a place for you.
Yes.
There's a place where your unique talent and gift fits. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because no, I think you're right. So often people get hung up on, well, I don't have one of the, you know, I don't preach and I don't sing, so they can't use me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh no, there's, you know, like that girl that knows how to disarm. Mm-hmm. That's so valuable. If you've got to work with a hard, you know, campers, that's such a sweet talent to be able to have with you in camp.
Right. And I can't do a questionnaire that will tell me that you could do that. Right. It's just who they are.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Greg?
I think one thing that I've struggled with, and I think a lot of people do, is what we were just saying earlier. Not just feeling that I'm not ready or incapable or I don't have what it takes in some way, shape, or form. And in those moments, I just, again, have to be reminded that it's not about me. It's not about my whatever it is, whatever I bring to the table. And sometimes I'm reminded that, very brutally and honestly by people around me close, that remind me of that, that it's not about me. And so, not to fall in that trap. And
it's in spite of me.
Yeah. And then also, again, if the Lord puts a burden on your heart, there's a reason why. And if we're not serving in some way, shape, or form, then, what are we doing in terms of just our call, our walk? So that's my encouragement. It's serving is, I think, just a walk with God and whatever it is that he called you to, he will equip you, because
Yeah.
if he called you to it, he'll equip you.
Yeah.
And we're, it's not like you were saying, it's not rocket science. We tend to really complicate it.
That is true.
And it's easy
Overcomplicate.
to look around and just look at what you're called to in terms of, whatever you are right now and whatever's opportunities are presented to you. And just know that if those are there for you to step into, because those are those good deeds that were
Right.
ready for you to walk into, then just walk into them, knowing that it's not by your power, not by your might. And just to walk in that. And another thing that has helped me pray a few times when, especially, when you're very hard on yourself, like I am, where just identity, just a prayer that I learned to pray is just to ask the Lord, hey, what is it that you like about me? And I know it's a weird prayer, but it's one that will, I believe, always get answered, because I think he created us, like Anca said, with a very specific identity. Besides, our being children of the creator of the universe and needing to remind ourselves that. And I always tell people that that's my favorite work of the Holy Spirit, is crying Abba Father out of my heart, reminding me every moment who I am, because I need that. But also he will, tell you and remind you of some of those quirks or some of those very specific things that he wants to use.
Yeah.
Man,
So
that's really, really cool. I think about, like, from the perspective of, if my boys ask me, Dad, what do you like about me? How I feel? Dude, that's huge. And I can't imagine, like, I can't wait to finish this podcast and get into my prayer closet and ask God that. Honestly,
That's
I'm
really
looking
cool.
forward to it. Like, I'm so excited by that. No, thank you for that. That's super cool. Yeah, to our listeners, if you're driving to work, if you're in your prayer closet, if you're, this is where we're going to end today's podcast. Spend a little bit of time in prayer and ask the Lord, what is it about you that he likes? What is it about you that interests him? That's really, really cool. It's a great question. It's a great way to end today's podcast. Yeah, thank you guys for being guests. Thank you guys for sharing your stories and your testimony. It's been such a joy to have you guys.
That was so much fun.
it was
Good. I'm really glad.
great to hang out with Eddie.
Yeah, it's always a joy to hang out with you guys as well.
The campers are going to get so jealous. Now we got extra time with Eddie.
I texted him that photo that the girls, they have questions for Eddie list.
I
It's
saw
right
that.
on our fridge.
Because
Yes.
they'll ask, they want to stump Eddie. So
They're so sweet. Yeah. But and for all of our listeners, thank you guys for joining us. We've had such a good time, just having great conversation, and we really hope this has blessed you. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks and God bless.